In this video, I want to give you my 5 tips for the DJI Mini 4 Pro for best image quality, for best accuracy during waypoint flights, for most fun when flying, and so on. What are you using a drone for? Most people probably film themselves when they are on vacation, and the Mini 4 Pro is perfect for that, because with the omnidirectional obstacle avoidance, it can fly pretty safely, even on its own. It's very small, it requires no special license because it's under 250 grams, so you can easily bring it with you and quickly launch it when you see something interesting. But even if you are a bit more serious about filmmaking, you will get a lot from this drone in my opinion. However, make sure to use tip number 1, which is so basic that I will give you another bonus tip at the end in case you already know this. But tip number 1 has to be to record in D-Log-M. This flat color profile gives you most dynamic range, which is beneficial with any camera. But especially with drone footage, you often have the ground and the sky in the shot, and they can differ a lot in brightness. And the dynamic range of the camera describes how much of this brightness range can be captured without highlights being blown out or details in the shadows being lost, because they're either totally white or totally black. This is called clipping, and the color profile influences the dynamic range. And with D-Log-M on the Mini 4 Pro, you get the best out of that camera. You activate it by entering Pro mode and then selecting D-Log-M. However, footage that you recorded like this looks weird as is. It lacks a lot of contrast and saturation. To turn this into a nice image, we have to apply DJI's LUT in your editing software. And with that, the image will look again like if you had recorded it in normal, so non-D-Log-M mode. But then, what's the point, right? Well, you will probably want to make some adjustments like lifting the shadows to show some more details there, or even do some color grading. Or you take a shortcut and just apply a look LUT. If you do any of that, having recorded in D-Log-M pays off. Because if you don't have clipping in the original footage, you can bring those details back. If you're using DaVinci Resolve, you do this with a node in the color node tree. It's important that you do this color conversion at the end of your node tree. Do all your other adjustments before that node. Otherwise, the LUT might crush the shadows to 0, and then subsequent nodes cannot lift any details out of those clipped areas anymore. Tip number 2 is about audio. The drone itself doesn't have any microphone because it would only pick up the motor noise anyway. But who wants to watch a silent video? Well, if you're recording things like landscapes, you can use music. But if you're filming something with actual action and you need the audio that is happening, then there's a neat trick. The remote of the drone accepts a USB-C microphone, but this is not recorded with the drone video automatically. What you have to do is record a screen capture on the remote. This will record a video file of the screen. And since the screen shows the live drone footage, you can sync the screen capture to the drone's video file by overlaying them and shifting one track until both are in sync. Then you know that your audio is in sync, and you can delete the screen capture and just keep the audio track. Tip number 3. Probably my favorite feature of the drone is Waypoint Missions. It allows you to record the same drone flight at different times and then make cool effects by blending between them. Unfortunately, you will soon find out that the accuracy of this is actually not very good. I've observed that the positions can be off by many meters. If you're flying very high and the objects are very far away, this doesn't matter that much. But if the objects are very close, like 10 or 20 meters, then you can see that the perspective can be totally different. So my tip here is to fly in a larger distance so that you have room for aligning the different clips by cropping and transforming. Besides that, I always launch the drone at the exact same position. I'm wondering if this significant inaccuracy in Waypoint Missions is actually intended by DJI, maybe to protect their expensive professional drone products, which are very accurate, because they don't rely solely on GPS. GPS indeed has its limitations, so maybe the Mini 4 Pro only does what's possible, but I noticed that the auto return of the drone, where it comes back to the takeoff position autonomously, is very precise, like definitely less than a meter. And I noticed that the drone does some random movements in the beginning of a waypoint flight. And those movements look very similar in one drone session, but totally different after turning the drone and remote off and on again. So waypoint flights look actually decent when executed in one session, but if you want to repeat it later on the next day, for example, then you get those big deviations. So what you can try if you see that the drone is far off compared to a previous waypoint flight is to restart the drone and the remote and then start the mission again. It might work out better then. Tip number 4. One thing that I always wanted to have on my drone, but only very professional film drones have, is a separate pilot camera. With that, you can film sideways and still see where you're going. Well, the Mini 4 Pro has many additional cameras that are used by the automatic obstacle avoidance, and it is possible to look through these cameras as well. For that, you have to swipe on the map, and then you can select the direction. The cameras are black and white and obviously not stabilized, since these cameras don't have gimbals, and they don't have a very high resolution, and you can only look sideways and forwards and backwards, but not up or down for some reason. But I still really like this feature. Since I can see the propellers in the camera view, it also gives me a good idea of how the drone is doing, like if it's struggling with a lot of wind, for example. Tip number 5. The drone supports manual focus besides autofocus. And I'm not saying that you should pull manual focus here, but you can use that to lock the focus and create some nice reveal shots, for example, where some foreground objects moves out of the frame and reveals the actual subject. You can even use artificial lens blur in DaVinci Resolve to add some bokeh that you would never get from that small lens. Make sure to activate focus peaking, which will help you to see what's in focus. And now the bonus tip. You will probably need a shoulder strap for the remote, but if you already have one from your other camera, for example, you don't have to get another strap. You can just get the screws that you need to attach your own strap. I was really happy to find those. It saves you some bucks that you can then spend on ND filters, which I always use in order to film with 1/50 shutter speed for natural motion blur. I can recommend the ones from NEEWER. If I could buy again though, I would get the bigger set that also includes the ND128. I really miss that often. There are also Vario NDs for the drone, which I haven't tried. You'll find the links in the video description. You might also need a sun shield, and the ones that act as a cover look very useful, although I don't have one yet, because screwing the levers on and off is annoying, and it has happened more than once that I started the drone without having them on. So make it a habit to screw those on right away. Anyway, these were my tips. I hope you liked this video. If yes, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you then.